Welcome back to the Ivan Files, where this patient soul tries to learn me something.
That ain't so.
That ain't so? Tries to learn me something.
Trying to learn me something.
Oh, man.
So, the education there, huh?
Yeah, that's right. For sure. Yeah. So, what do you want to talk about today? You kind of had my head spinning a little bit last week.
Uh-huh.
Which was cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if there's anything we need to finish off this week, like on AI.
Oh.
What did we kind of leave hanging?
I don't remember in terms of like AI and where it's all hanging. I know that I've been trying to stay on the know with like the different things that are happening in the space.
Yeah.
I know that they just released a couple of new programs that are essentially able to take, I think they call it a Modo input, where they can actually take audio files or you can upload pictures and the AI can learn from it.
Uh-huh.
So that's a little scary. Like, it's moving awfully quickly for that already be a possibility now.
Yeah, and they also have that sort of thing. And then it gets mixed up in there, and they can come out with their own conclusion.
Right.
That's what's scary.
Agreed.
So, we talked a little bit about free will with us as human beings, and if we are a biochemical AI of some sort, mm-hmm. if that, what if... what was I talking about?
The biochemical AI.
Yeah. That, well, it's free will.
Right.
We have free will. And we think we have free will. And there are some psychologists who would argue the point that we don't really have free will, that it's already out there in some way. Mm. And there's several famous ones, and some that aren't so famous that might have a little something to say too,
right,
like Jung, Freud. Freud was, he was a bit off.
Was he?
Oh yeah, but he got something started, yeah. and it's wound up into a really quite a interesting thing. And, hundreds of people are licensed to counsel other people. And there are psychiatrists that from the medical sciences, they went into the brain scientists. And now they're even into the actual nerve cells and... Wow. All those different kinds of cells and the parts of the brain and stuff like that. So one thing kind of drifts into another.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So Freud, he essentially was big on the subconscious, right? Was he the one that pioneered the study of the subconscious, or is that not right?
No. Well, he probably did some pioneering with regard to writing about it. Mm. He was very prolific in his writings and so on. But the subconscious, I think, was most common to the ancient, tribal.
Really?
Witch doctors and things like that, or belief systems. There always seems to have been a belief system of some sort that something is there that you can't quite see.
Gotcha.
But it exists. Huh. And so that kind of brings us back to what we were talking about last week.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so I did a little research on the unforeseen realm, and by that I mean I basically had the computer give me a summary. And essentially, the breakdown between, the physical and, what would you call it, physical and metaphysical? Or how would you describe it? There's the physical plane, if you will, and there's a non-physical plane. Is that fair?
That's right. Yeah, they're two different points. Yeah.
And the non-physical plane is essentially where God is trying to set up creation, and Satan and the demons are trying to tear apart that creation. Is that accurate, or is that not accurate?
Well, that's the way it's kind of evolved to, a different evolution to the good guys and the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
But the good guys were the humans that followed what God wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm.
The righteousness. That's the key word. And the ones that didn't do that, for instance, the ones that saw the pretty ladies in the creation and then, kind of took advantage of it, well, he didn't like that very much. And so, that's kind of where the evil thing kind of comes from.
Hmm.
On the other hand, we have two sides of our brains to think about. There's uh, the number side,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the picture side.
Right.
And eventually, that's what I want to talk about a little bit today: is the picture side of our brain and what it can do. Now, there'd be a lot of people that would dispute that. There's no picture side to your brain.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
But why would that be disputed? Can't we all imagine what's happening, and that would fall into a picture side of your brain, or no?
Well, that would be the imagination, and that's not the pointed visualization of the brain. And what I'm going to eventually get to is the prayer response, because there's a lot of people out there that are hurting right now about some relatives that aren't doing so well and so on, and we
Mm-hmm.
bless them all, of course, and ask to help. But in formulating a prayer, what Jesus spoke of, it says, you guys quit, blasting it away in the public there, go into the closet and say this prayer. So it was very, very one-on-one and very quiet, and it wasn't a huge stadium full of people that they were outlawed or out saying prayers and so on. So anyway, that's what I would encourage folks to do with regard to their hurt is to first get really, really relaxed. Just relax, and then visualize very sharply. Not just imagine, but visualize it like you were actually there almost. A very sharp visualization, and you can see the benefit of the sun, for instance, surrounding them, a lot of love surrounding them, and things like that. But also seeing them be better. That's what you got to do. You got to see that too.
So that visualization or prayer, right? You could describe that as a prayer.
Yeah.
That is our way to influence the non-physical world.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess the answer to that would be, yes, if you come right down to it. A lot of folks will say, well, I tried that, and well, it didn't happen. I prayed for this and for that. And the question is, are you praying for yourself or are you praying for somebody else?
Right.
And not that that's a whole lot of difference, but the depth of it is what is necessary and momentous in your life and perhaps in another person's life.
Interesting.
So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you look at the different religions of Earth and humanity, and there's always something that comes back to almost like a mantra or enlightenment or prayer, where it focuses on getting the mind quiet and focusing on a higher plane, if you will. And it's interesting how all of these different religions kind of found their way to something very similar in this makeup. You know, it really does make you think that there is a way we as individuals can impact the non-physical world, even though there may not be like any black or white proof that we can do it. The faith that something changes and then ultimately changing does seem to yield results.
It does. It does. And it's difficult to haul that into a laboratory anywhere. It just doesn't work that way. It does work the other way. And there's an organization that teaches that, and it does work. But the caution is, what are you wishing for? What are you asking for? You're asking for something that is benefit to yourself. That's okay. You're asking for something that's benefit of somebody else, and that's okay too. But the okay part for you does not have to be, or shouldn't be, something that is, while it's okay for you, it's not okay for that person or the other person. That won't work.
Gotcha. Malice.
That won't, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's often called the spells and all that stuff, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it makes a difference on what you're doing and so on. I guess I don't know how did we ever get to blast and prayer all over the temple or the auditorium or the church or whatever? Where did we get to the idea that was a good thing to do? I wonder.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that anywhere in the scripture where that is like outlined or?
It wasn't. Jesus didn't say that.
No.
No. And in this book, one of the reasons he came back, in some of the stuff I've been reading, and not all of it's good, but some of it's okay, is to shape them around again, because the Israelites were, there was a section of them, a party of them, if you will, in those days, perhaps. I think it was the Pharisees. I'm not positive of that. But anyway, they were public prayer. And what he said to them is, don't do that. You go into a closet and you be by yourself, and you individual. That's your thing. That's, it's not something to spread all over everywhere.
That's really interesting, because whenever I go to downtown Seattle, there's always somebody with a megaphone.
Oh,
that's always like, repent and you shall be saved. Maybe I should sit down and have a little one-on-one with them next time. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting, because I know a lot of people do really pray outwardly, right?
Yeah.
Like they are having a conversation with the higher power to be heard by others, right? That's kind of an interesting, that's kind of an interesting dynamic that plays out, because the relationship that any one individual should have is with God solely, right? In other words, one-on-one. It's not necessarily, a conversation that's going through another party to get to God, right? Right. It should be a one-on-one conversation.
That's what I believe anyway.
Yeah.
So why do we pray as a group?
All right. That's
Like
good.
grace?
Huh?
Like when we bless the food? Is that different?
Maybe so. Well, I think that's more of just a kind of a blessing rather than really a deep prayer. More of a blessing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the deep prayer in church also is of benefit to guys that have been out late the night before, because they usually fall asleep.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's how it
Oh, who designed this run of show? I need to know. Was George having a little too much blood of Christ last night? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that was, yeah. Gotta be careful.
Oh man. Huh. Yeah, that's really interesting. In terms of like the console of individuals that would oversee the unforeseen realm, I've really given that a lot of thought, right? Because if there is interpretations that said God had a council of individuals to execute his will, why would he bring these unforeseen powers on? And what I keep coming back to is, what would his motivation be? And I think the motivation would have to be to test these, I'm assuming lesser powers, but these unforeseen powers, right? Is he like bringing on this console to test them to see if they are worthy?
Well, that's part of it, but he's what I read was that he's has already determined that they were mostly that, and it was the next uh, group down that was the one that didn't do what he wanted. They were the ones that were supposed to come down and help us out, and they didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until after the flood, and then I don't know what happened.
Huh.
Do you know what happened?
I could make a phone call, but no. No.
Who are you gonna call?
Well, you actually. You're actually the one that I would have called. Yeah, no, that's interesting. It only goes to show you that these big corporations, they just can't get anything done. They delegate and delegate and delegate. By the time you get 3 rungs down, good luck.
Good luck. Yeah,
Good luck.
Right.
Yeah. They're not motivating no one.
Yeah.
Did I already tell you guys about the face recognition stuff
The what?
that I heard about on the news the other day? So I don't remember where I was driving back from, but I was listening to a story about an artificial intelligence company that has basically made facial recognition software, and they've built out ghost profiles on the internet of all, like, billions of people.
Is that right?
Yeah. So when they go to identify somebody on a camera, they can run it through the database, and it will try to come back and say, this is that person. Yeah.
We're already shut down.
We're already done. Yeah, you're done before you even start anymore. Yeah, it's
I guess we have to be good somewhat, huh? Try to, yeah.
Yeah, it's
through as creatures of God, creatures of, and this guy talks about imagers. And what he seemed to say, and what he gets from this Lexham translation, that he takes from that and his own studies of Hebrew and all that sort of stuff. That what was I going to say?
imagers.
Imagers, yeah. That God created people, humans, in His own image.
Oh.
Nevertheless, He must have had several images, or it could change them a lot or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, that the principle that in the beginning, at least, the humans were to be the imagers. They were God's image on earth. Okay? I'll see how that goes. Yeah. And so some of these imagers have not stood up to the expected image.
No, there's been some missteps for a handful of people. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Well, I mean, trying to make a carbon copy, I guess, of anything would be difficult. And here it is again, like trying to make somebody in your own image or something in your own image, and then it falling apart like this.
Yeah. So, I haven't got very far in that book, but I intend to read the whole thing, and then, we can critique it.
Yeah, for sure.
And do that. There was Was there a program on UFOs on the other night?
I actually think Netflix released a new program on UFOs. Did you watch it all? Encounters, right? I think I'm 2 episodes in. It's one of those shows that I can't watch if I'm too tired because I know I'll pass out within 5 minutes. So I got to have the time but not be too tired. So I'm only like 2 episodes in. But I found it really interesting that they had the I believe it was a Navy pilot, who is a very devout religious man with like 4 or 5 kids.
Uh-huh.
And I found it very interesting that you saw like this individual who believes in UFOs and unidentified entities still leaning into the Bible and its teachings so heavily, right? Because I think for a lot of people, they look at like UFOs and they go, oh no, if they prove UFOs, religion's out the window.
Yeah.
I think that's like a go-to for a lot of people,
Yeah.
but I think both can coexist and everything will still be just fine. Just fine. 2 things can be true. One does not negate the other, is which was a very interesting topic, I think, they kind of alluded to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe next week we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's all we had for
That
this
was
week.
a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like I got my footing back. You had me on my heels last week, Ivan. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. The email is are you still on?
Yep. Still recording.
What the heck is my
The Ivan 1933 at gmail.com.
Okay.
The Ivan 1933 at gmail.com. So,
Okay.
1933,
Yeah.
that would make you about 90 years old.
Oh, yes.
That's crazy. You've almost lived a whole century.
Yeah.
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 That's
10
amazing.
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
Well, you got to live to 120. That's the goal.
That's what it said in
Yeah,
there.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll get to that part some.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's all, folks.
Bye, y'all.
If you see a Bigfoot, let us know.
I want to see a Bigfoot.
I want to